sunny spaces, smiling faces, happy places. But every sunny space holds a shadow. Behind every smile are sharp teeth. And every happy place has something sinister lurking just below the surface.
Welcome to We Saw the Devil, the podcast diving deep into the chilling realms of true crime. Join your host Robin as she unravels mysteries that have left investigators baffled and armchair sleuths obsessed. Be forewarned, dear listener. We Saw the Devil is not for the faint of heart. Our unflinching exploration will take you to the darkest corners of the psyche and through the unimaginable depths of human darkness to unearth stark secrets to the harsh light of day. Nothing will be left untouched. Are you ready? Are you sure? We saw the devil.
Hey everyone, you are listening to We Saw the Devil. This is Robin, and I am here with, as promised, the news update episode. There are a couple cases going on right now, and I want to talk about them, or a couple news items at least. I hope you guys have been having fun catching up with the Chris Chan saga with the new episode. If you haven't listened yet, part 17 of the Chris Chan saga is now out and available, and it's probably one of the more sexually extreme ones, I would say. So, fun time there. Before we get into it, though, let's just get some quick housekeeping out of the way. You're listening to We Saw the Devil. I'm your host, Robin. Website is wesawthedevil.com. Also, don't forget to follow on Instagram. You can follow me, keep up with my life, my dogs, the food that I cook, the music that I listen to, whatever. You can follow me at Robin_WSTD on Insta, or the podcast page as a whole, which is We Saw the Devil Podcast. And obviously, the show is on Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere else, but primarily I'm on Instagram. Beyond that, if you're digging the show, liking either Chris Chan or the news update episodes, don't forget to take like 3 seconds of your day and leave a 5-star review. It helps with a whole bunch of stuff, such as sponsorships and, all of that good administrative stuff that no one really cares about but me. Before we get into it, though, y'all, so I have to say, and this is not a Chris Chan episode, don't worry, but I know a lot of people listened to the last episode, and I announced in it, real time, last weekend, that Chris and Flutter, whatever mystery woman he's been seen with everywhere, they went to an anime con in Raleigh, North Carolina. I published the episode on Saturday. Saturday afternoon, they actually got kicked out. Like, they were actually removed from the venue by security. Apparently, I mean, go figure, right? A lot of people just aren't really down with Chris, an accused rapist, of raping his own mother. A lot of people don't feel comfortable being around Chris. So apparently, a lot of people complained and called security. And because he's so infamous, they actually did remove him and his, I don't know if it's girlfriend, caretaker, paid for friend. I don't know what Flutter is or Cabbage Snatch, but they were removed. I just had to have a quick follow up there because I find that absolutely hilarious. But I digress. Let's talk about a couple of these cases. So, the very first thing that I want to cover, because it's just so incredibly sad that it keeps happening, that would be the first school shooting of 2024. Yeah, guys, because it only took 4 whole days before we had our first school shooting of the year. For Iowa schools, it was the first day back from winter break. And just minutes before the first bell rang, 17-year-old Dylan Butler opened fire at Perry High School. And he allegedly posted a final video on TikTok, which was captioned, "Now we wait." And in that video, he actually took a selfie in a bathroom stall at the school, and he had a blue duffel bag around his feet. The video's backing track was the song Stray Bullet by the German industrial band KMFDM. That was actually also the song that was the backing track, the background music on the personal site of Eric Harris, one of the Columbine High School Massacre shooters. Kind of a dead giveaway as far as who this kid looked up to, right? So again, just minutes before school started, the shooting began in the cafeteria. Dan Marburger, the principal of Perry High School, he was actually shot multiple times critically, attempting to protect all of the students. And at the end of this all, by the time the shooting was over, an 11-year-old sixth grader, Amir Jalif, was killed. Marburger was in critical condition. 4 staff members and multiple other students were also injured. Dylan Butler committed suicide with his weapon. And so far, everyone has actually been released from the hospital, except for 2 students. They remain hospitalized. Now, I'm not going to get into a gun control debate or go on a rant about this. I did this way early on in the podcast, and a lot of you weren't happy about that. I'm just fucking tired, y'all. Guns are now the leading cause of death among children and adolescents in the United States. I mean, no other developed economy in the world has as many violent firearm deaths as the United States does. And we only have less than 5% of the world's entire population. And think about it. We are less than 5% of the world's population, but we account for 46% of civilian global gun ownership. The answer to this problem is clearly a complex one that involves all sorts of mental health, gun regulation, security, schools. I mean, there's so many different conversations to be had here. Poverty, bullying, social media. There's a lot. And that discussion is not meant for this particular podcast episode. But I am so fucking tired of my phone going off with handfuls of notifications announcing mass murder. I mean, there has to be some rational answer. I constantly discuss this topic with all of my friends. I won't get into it on the podcast, but just wanted to flag that yes, we have had our at least first mass shooting in 2024, and it only took 4 days. Second item I wanted to cover, and oh Lord, this is everywhere. But Gypsy Rose. I mean, I can't do a current true crime update episode without mentioning Gypsy Rose again. And I did mention her in the previous episode in terms of, what she had been doing when she came out and was released. It's been an absolute media shit show for her. It's honestly the whole hoopla is kind of making me a little uncomfortable at this point. But in any case, on January 5th, the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard premiered on Lifetime. Lifetime Movie Network, the ones that did the horrible Lori Vallow the show, and they have all these random murder shows, and it's just so scripted and template, and it's hilarious. But I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis for this show from Lifetime. The 6-hour special features unprecedented access to Gypsy Rose Blanchard, a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, who suffered horrific abuse and made national headlines for her role in her mother's violent murder. Currently still incarcerated, Gypsy's shocking story has been told by many others, but now she is finally ready to tell her truth before she becomes a free woman for the first time in her life. Everyone knows, we're in January now. Gypsy Rose has been released, and she has already gained quite a bit of an online following. I think last I saw was like 9 million or something insane like that. And again, I mentioned all of this in the previous episode. Now, if you haven't seen the series on Lifetime yet and you don't want any spoilers, fast forward a little bit because I'm going to talk about some of the things that we have learned from the documentary thus far. First, she says that her best memory in her life, like the best memory that she's ever had in her life, is the day that she went to prison. I mean, she had such a horrible, rough life, no access to the outside world whatsoever, that going to prison was the best day of her life. And if you think about it, that's actually kind of poignant and really incredibly sad, truly, because she was so controlled and abused. I mean, horrifically physically abused. If you think of all of just the different medical procedures that her mother put her through unnecessarily, that prison was the best memory of her life. Second thing is that she said that her grandfather molested her for about a year when she was 9 years old, that he would touch her and force her to do things to him. Her grandfather did come out and he has denied that any abuse took place. But Gypsy said, quote, "I've gotten to a point where I can stand on my own 2 feet and say, this happened to me and I'm not going to let it affect me anymore. And that's why I'm talking about it now. And I think for me, making it known that it happened might prevent him from doing the same thing to another family member or another child or another person because he's still alive." That's absolutely terrifying. Are charges going to come out of this? I haven't even checked the statute of limitations or any information, anything like that. I don't even know where this man currently lives. But yeah, it's really sad that she divulged that. Number three, after meeting at a sci fi convention, Gypsy had a relationship with a man named Dan. They exchanged online messages, and he was the first person that she told that she could actually walk. So she and Dan were dating, right? Well, at that time, Gypsy actually thought that she was 15 years old. That's how old she thought she was. Don't forget, she'd never seen her Medicaid card or anything like that. She had no real concept other than what her mother had told her. She ended up finding her Medicaid card, and that actually revealed that she was 19 years old. Considering that Dan was a bit older, of age, and she realized, hey, I'm legal now, she actually came up with a plan to run away with Dan. She ended up stealing Dee Dee's pain pills, some cash. She wrote her mom a note and then hitchhiked to Dan's friend's house at 2 in the morning. And she had really had no exposure to the outside world. So can you imagine being, for her 19, mentally 15 in terms of, where she thought she was and probably the stuff that she was doing, realizing that you're of age and going to hitchhike to your boyfriend's house that you've, had an online relationship with. So there, after she got to his friend's house, she learned that Dan had actually been in prison, was on parole, and couldn't leave the state with her. They were going to run away. So she ended up going back home with her mom. Her mom ended up finding her, coming to get her, and bringing her back. Gypsy described how once they got back into the home, her mom smashed her computer, smashed her phone. She then chained her to the bed with handcuffs and a dog leash that was connected to Dee Dee at all times so that she could feel, especially at night, anytime Gypsy moved or, to make sure she didn't get away. Gypsy said that she was chained to the bed like that for 2 full weeks, and her mother would not feed her every day as punishment for her trying to run away. Absolutely wild stuff coming out of that documentary. And then also her book too. So, and then the prison tapes too, y'all, because not only that, we have Gypsy admitting to a multiple same-sex relationships. She said, quote, "I tried to experiment with my sexuality too. I was pretty sure I was straight, but I tried anyway. Because of sexual abuse I had experienced and the way my mother made me feel dirty in my own womanly body, I have a mental block that prevents me from full satisfaction. I thought perhaps if I experimented with women, I would have a better chance of reaching climax. I think as a young girl, I was exposed to watching shows like Xena Warrior Princess. Xena and Gabrielle were lesbians, and I watched it and didn't understand it. When I was 16 or so, I thought girls were pretty, so that confused me. So I thought, am I gay? There's a saying here, gay for the stay, straight from the gate. So when in Rome, I did kiss a couple girls and became a pillow princess 4 times. And then the interviewer, Melissa, asked, a pillow princess? And then Gypsy replied, if you think about it for a sec, it will make sense. Let's just say I didn't initiate. Absolutely wild. So much stuff is coming out, and it's actually kind of, I don't know. I'm all for protecting people's privacy, but Gypsy Rose is empowered. She's free. She can do whatever the hell she wants. I just hope she doesn't just constantly stay on social media and broadcast her life because there's some really disturbing individuals out there and she deserves some peace and privacy at this point. But also, I guess if it makes her feel good to talk about it and be public, then good for her, I guess. But I just don't want her to be exploited. It was really cool, though. She did mention in an interview that Elizabeth Smart, the kidnapping victim, that Gypsy Rose has received thousands and thousands of messages, direct DMs. But Elizabeth Smart is actually like one of the only ones that she's read. And Elizabeth Smart reached out and offered to act as a resource or, to talk about things with. And I think that's really, really, really sweet. And I just can't imagine. I mean, what a fucked up club to be in, right? I mean, more power to these women, Elizabeth Smart, Ariel Castro's victims, Gypsy Rose, like all of these women who have been so heavily traumatized like this. It's just, I can't imagine how isolating that would be. That's not an experience that most people have. But definitely we'll be providing more updates on Gypsy Rose to see how this turns out because unfortunately I don't have a great feeling about it. I hope she's okay though. I hope she stays on the straight and narrow though. I hope she stays on the straight and narrow though. All right, and so here's a case that I haven't really covered on the podcast before, but I've been privately covering it and obsessed with it. And that's the Jennifer Dulos case. If any of you have been following it, it's out of Connecticut. And this week, there's finally some movement. This case is wild. So, in May of 2019, Jennifer Dulos, who's a mother of five, disappeared from her home. She had just dropped her kids off at school, her five children off at school, and it was later discovered that she was in the midst of a nasty, nasty, nasty custody battle with her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos. Again, they were going through a really gross custody battle, and it's pretty much presumed at this point that Fotis was hiding somewhere in the garage and ended up ambushing her and then killing her in the garage. A lot of bloodstains were found there, blood spatter. An SUV was found abandoned miles away, and her remains have never been found. Fotis was charged with murder, and his girlfriend, the new girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, she was charged with conspiracy to commit murder, as well as 2 counts of conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence and second-degree hindering prosecution. Fotis ended up committing suicide while awaiting trial in 2020. So his girlfriend, Michelle, though, she's still in jail. So she actually just had her most recent court appearance this past Thursday, 4 years after Jennifer Dulos went missing. So, what happened yesterday? Well, police chest cam footage was reviewed. And in the state of Connecticut, you don't have to have opening statements, so there weren't any. They just literally got down to business. So, in the garage, there was visible blood spatter on the grill of a Range Rover that was parked in the middle, section of the garage. There was blood all over the concrete floor, as well as a partial bloody footprint. There was also blood on the garage door, as well as blood on the lower part of the SUV, which had apparently been smeared around, indicating that someone had actually tried to clean it up. The courtroom also saw the next door neighbor's surveillance camera that showed Jennifer Dulos' SUV leaving the street before 8 a.m. that day, returning at 8:05, and then driving away at 10:25 a.m., never to be seen again. And the evening that Jennifer went missing, the day that she disappeared, Fotis and his girlfriend Michelle were spotted driving around Hartford, Connecticut, throwing black trash bags into various dumpsters. I mean, kind of reminiscent of the Barry Morphew case, no? And Michelle herself was seen in the passenger seat, which is how she's attached to the shit to begin with. Officials were able to recover some black trash bags and Jennifer's clothes and 4 3-foot long zip ties stained with her blood were found. Again, officials went, got those black trash bags, and they were able to pull out bloody clothing that belonged to Jennifer, and then 4 3-foot long zip ties stained with her blood. A 2020 court document said, quote, "It appears the zip ties were used to secure and incapacitate Jennifer Dulos for some time period, during which her blood transferred onto the ties. It is reasonable that Jennifer Dulos was alive at the time the zip ties were attached to restrain her movements and prevent her escape." Now, Michelle Troconis' trial is expected to last 6 weeks. But she's not the only person who's about to be on trial for this case. Fotis Dulos' best friend and personal attorney, Kent Mulvaney, was also charged with conspiracy to commit murder. He also pleaded not guilty, and he's currently awaiting his own separate trial. Apparently, Fotis let him know, and Kent apparently assisted him in trying to cover all of this up. And because Fotis was such a piece of shit, he decided to unalive himself so he didn't have to go through a trial or be incarcerated, probably for life. So now it's his new girlfriend who is going to be put on trial. But it's going to be really interesting because I want to know all of the evidence that they had against Fotis. So I will be covering this trial when it starts and going through all of the evidence and the case updates and trial updates from that. Because this case was so sad. There are some people that just pull at your heartstrings. So cases that I've covered, like Irene Gakwa, the missing Kenyan woman who was living in Wyoming with her internet boyfriend, and suddenly she just went missing one day. He was seen on video buying like a 65-gallon drum, like Megan is missing type shit. Yeah, he was arrested on credit card fraud. They've never found her remains either. But her smile, just when you see pictures of Irene Gakwa, It's almost like, eyes are the windows to the soul and the smiles, like, they were just the sweetest people. And Jennifer Dulos very much just you could tell that she was just a very, very sweet person. They always say that though, right? Dateline, it's kind of like, "She lit up a room." And, I can see it being actually applicable in this case. But in any case, much sad, and I will be covering, trial updates. Third piece is, does anybody remember Oscar Pistorius? So Oscar Pistorius was released from prison last week after being imprisoned for 11 years. If you recall, there was a huge trial in South Africa because he ended up killing his model girlfriend, Reva Steenkamp, back in 2013. And I don't know how many of you followed this case. It's actually surprising to me that so few people were really into it. But the gist is this: Oscar Pistorius was a very well known and famous Paralympic sprinter from South Africa. And he gained his fame after reaching the semifinals for the 400 meter at the 2012 Olympics. He's a double amputee below the knee and had been since he was a small child. He more or less went on to inspire tens of millions of people because he had prosthetics made and special legs. I mean, it looks like hooks kind of at the end, but they're special legs. I'm sure you guys have seen them that he can use to compete. So the trial for that ended up taking place in 2014 and it was televised. And in South Africa, it was basically people called out of work. People were watching it in cafes. People were watching it everywhere. I mean, it was pretty much like South Africa's version of OJ, right? So the situation was this: Oscar Pistorius claimed that he awoke in the middle of the night and noticed that his girlfriend Reva wasn't in bed. He said that he did notice that. He heard someone in the bathroom. He claimed that his response was reactive and that he thought that there was an intruder, that someone had broken into his house. He says he fired shots through the door, and that actually killed Reva, his girlfriend. Apparently, the very first shot was the fatal one. Now, that's what Oscar Pistorius and the defense team said. The prosecution said that the fact that Pistorius armed himself meant that the act was premeditated, that he should be convicted of murder. Witnesses claim to have heard the screams of both a male and a female, and that wouldn't have been the first time. Oscar and Reva both were well known to fight, and their neighbors heard them fighting frequently. And that night apparently was not much different. Witnesses claim to have heard both a male and a female voice screaming. Reva Steenkamp's autopsy also returned showing that she had recently been eating. And that was totally contradictory to Oscar Pistorius's claims that they had been asleep for hours. She had just recently eaten something. And there's so much to this, including Oscar Pistorius was in bed. Did he put on his prosthetics and so on and so forth? And what height were the shots fired from? I mean, there's so much. I'm not going to go through it in this episode because that would be a whole series in itself. But if you are interested, I highly suggest checking this case out and deep diving into it. I'd say like 90% of the people think that he killed her, that she went into the bathroom. They were screaming, they were fighting. She went into the bathroom and he fired through the door at her. I'm also in that camp, to be honest, but would love to know what you guys think, especially if any of you followed it. What do you think? Again, you can reach out to me personally on my Instagram, which is Robin_WSTD, or the podcast, We Saw the Devil podcast. And reach out on Instagram in the comments or send me a message and tell me what you think. Do you think he did it? Do you think that 11 years for killing someone is enough? If you know about him, he was kind of the bad boy of South Africa sports. One time went into a restaurant and he basically took a handgun and fired off shots inside the restaurant and was pretty much like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I'm rich and I'm famous. Just crazy crap like that. So he wasn't a very good person, in my opinion, at all. And I personally think that he knowingly and willingly killed her. But he has never shown a single ounce, a single moment, a single breath of remorse in any capacity. And it's just kind of maddening, to be honest. And last but not least, y'all, we have to talk about John Pryor filing to withdraw as Chad Daybell's attorney. Did anyone see this coming so close to the trial? Because I certainly did not. I did not have this in my 2024 bingo. John Pryor leaving as Chad Daybell's attorney. Apparently, Chad Daybell be broke. If you recall, he signed over his house to John Pryor or way early on in the process after his arrest when money was running out. He was able to afford a private attorney, and now he can't. And just reading this filing from John Pryor, it's really interesting. More or less, Chad Daybell has given his blessing. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And a direct quote from this filing here, quote, reflecting this complexity and the work required to prepare and try this case, this court has set aside 2 full months for a trial. And the prosecution team consists of no less than 5 attorneys from 2 county offices, including an out of state attorney hired at taxpayer expense. Remaining on this case would require undersigned counsel to work around the clock more than full time for more than 4 months without compensation and without the assistance of any other counsel. This motion is made with Mr. Daybell's full consent. Mr. Daybell has requested from me that he be given 2 capital qualified attorneys for his trial. I have made a diligent effort to find a lawyer to assist in this matter for a significant amount of time. The attorney who I located and agreed to try to get qualified has not yet been approved by the Public Defense Commission. The time for him to be of any assistance to me in preparing for this trial is long gone. In essence, y'all, Chad Daybell be broke. He cannot afford to pay Pryor anymore. They're at kind of like the last phase before the trial, and Pryor can't do it by himself. It's kind of not fair, and he's not getting paid. And the team that needs to be there is not getting paid. So Chad is going to be assigned a public defender. He is statutorily entitled to appointment of 2 counsel who are capital qualified at state expense. Direct quote again from this filing. Did not see this coming. This is going to push the trial back quite a bit, I would imagine. And overall, y'all, this is wild. Did anybody, again, have this coming up? I thought for sure this would have been something that happened a long time ago. The money's already run out, in the house and all of that. But shoo, y'all, shoo. I don't know. It's a lot, though. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that this case is going to be pushed out quite a bit. I definitely also want to cover, not today, the update on the Idaho 4 case. It's actually insane to me. I mean, correct me, am I missing something? Like, does someone need to fill me in on something that I'm missing? But I'm seeing a whole lot of people saying that Brian Koberger is innocent of this. Granted, we don't know. Innocent until proven guilty. But from what I'm aware of, there's a whole bunch of circumstantial evidence in the very least that is not looking good. So, am I missing something? Please fill me in if so. But yeah, I'll keep doing these news updates. Next episode, I'm honestly trying to rush the Chris Chan series a little bit because now we're getting into a really interesting phase with Chris Chan. And I'm honestly kind of hurrying on the Chris Chan thing so I can tie that up. We're now in the Fine and Chew crisis, where it becomes this circus sideshow of Chris and Barb begging for money and all of this other random shit and cons. And we're going to go through that. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping to get the Chris Chan series tied up in the next 5 episodes or so we can move on to other things. So, what do you guys want me to cover? This is something when I came back with a podcast, I was so burnt out on Lori Vallow, right? I just wanted to do something different. And so I found Chris Chan kind of fascinating. I know that you guys are split on Chris Chan. Some of you are just so over it. It's not true crime to you. You just have no care for it. I've never received so many messages from people saying they like content than Chris Chan. So some of you are just really digging and living for it. Obviously, the Patreon gets first pick of next topic. But do you want me to cover more internet type of personalities here and there if a crime has been committed? Do you want me to do lesser known stories, small hometown stories? What would you guys like me to cover? We Saw the Devil podcast on Insta for the podcast, Robin underscore WSTD for me, my personal Insta. And let me know, what do you guys want me to cover? All right, that's it for today, y'all. Thanks again for listening. Go read about the Jennifer Dulos case and the Oscar Pistorius case, especially Oscar Pistorius. It brought a lot back going back and researching for the news update, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole again of all of the evidence against him, and it's wild. But let me know what you think. And with that, y'all, until next crime.